The Newsday continues here on One News Now. I'm Charles Lejano. Parts of Western Visayas are still under red rainfall warning due to the heavy rain brought by Tropical Storm Dante. These include Capiz, Aklan, and the northern portion of Iloilo. Residents in these provinces must prepare for serious flooding in low-lying areas and landslides in mountainous areas. Orange rainfall warning is raised over Guimaras, Negros Occidental, Antique, and the rest of Iloilo. Pag-asa warns that flooding is threatening in low-lying areas and landslides in mountainous areas. Meanwhile, the yellow warning level is up over Romblon and Oriental Mindoro. Residents could expect possible flooding in low-lying areas and near river channels, as well as landslides in mountainous areas. Light to moderate with at times heavy rain is also expected in Masbate and northern Samar. Tropical cyclone wind signals are still up in different parts of Luzon and Visayas because of Tropical Storm Dante. Areas under signal number 2 include the southern portion of Quezon, Batangas, the southern portion of Laguna, Marinduque, Oriental Mindoro, and the extreme northern portion of Occidental Mindoro. The same goes for Romblon, the western portion of Masbate, including Burias Island, northern portion of Capiz, the northern portion of Aklan, and the extreme northeastern portion of Iloilo. Areas under signal number 1 are Ilocos Norte, Ilocos Sur, La Union, Pangasinan, the western portion of Kalinga, Mountain Province, Ifugao, and Benguet. Also included are the extreme southern portions of Isabela, Nueva Vizcaya, the western portion of Quirino, the central and southern portions of Aurora, Zambales, Bataan, and Tarlac, as well as Nueva Ecija, Pampanga, Bulacan, and Metro Manila. Also under signal number 1 are Rizal, the rest of Quezon, the rest of Laguna, Cavite, Occidental Mindoro, Calamian Islands, and Cuyo Islands. The same goes for the western portions of Camarines Norte, Camarines Sur, and the western portion of Albay, as well as the rest of Masbate, including Ticao Island and the western portion of Sorsogon. Signal number 1 is also up in Antique, the rest of Aklan, the rest of Capiz, the rest of Iloilo, Guimaras, the northern portion of Negros Occidental, the extreme northern portion of Negros Oriental, and the northwestern portion of Cebu, including Bantayan Islands. Tropical Storm Dante has maintained its strength as it hovers over southern Luzon. Dante was last spotted at the southern coastal waters of Romblon. The storm is packing maximum sustained winds of up to 65 kilometers per hour and gusts of up to 90 kph. Pag-asa says Dante will begin turning more northwestward and may pass near or in the vicinity of Oriental Mindoro or Marinduque before making another landfall over Batangas in the southern Quezon area. It is expected to maintain its strength until it makes landfall over mainland Luzon later today. PDP Laban spokesperson Raul Lambino downplays legal and constitutional issues regarding President Duterte's possible vice presidential bid in 2022. In an interview with One News' The Chiefs, Lambino was asked whether PDP Laban isn't setting up Duterte as a shadow president by letting him choose his own running mate and, in effect, his own successor for the presidency. Lambino said he doesn't see anything wrong with Duterte choosing his would-be successor to ensure the continuity of any programs that he may have started in his term. He added that Duterte's choice of a running mate will answer to the people and not to Duterte if he or she wins the presidency.
Nakita naman po natin yung ginawa ng Pangulong Duterte for the last 5 years, and our people are very much satisfied. They have approved of his action. They have trust and confidence in him, as seen by many of the surveys after surveys that were conducted since 2016 up to now. And so the President has the full trust and confidence of our people.
Barely a month since taking office, PNP Chief Guillermo Eleazar is now facing the second reported case of police brutality under his term. But Malacanang says this is just another isolated case. Patricia Mangune with the story.
In this viral video, an armed man appears to be walking unsteadily. He then calls on a nearby woman and shoots her at point-blank range. The victim was identified as 52-year-old Lilibeth Valdez. She died on the spot in Barangay Greater Fairview, Quezon City.
Bumibili lang po ng sigarilyo po yung mama ko. Tapos po, maya-maya po, tinawag daw po siya ng polis. Pag sa bunot, pinatagilid yung ano po niya, yung leeg niya. Tapos maya-maya po, binaril po siya.
The suspect, Police Master Sergeant Hensi Zinampan, was arrested. Zinampan allegedly had a previous altercation with the victim's family.
Dahilan po yun po kasi sa kapatid kong isa na ano po kasi nagsuntukan po kasi yun yung polis pati po yung kapatid kong lalaking isa.
Kailan po nangyari yun?
Nung May 1 po.
Nung May 1?
Opo.
Ano ho dahilan ba't nagsuntukan sila?
Pares po kasi silang lasing.
PNP Chief General Guillermo Eleazar confronted the suspect.
Anong inisip mo pag ginawa mo yun? Sumagot ka! May pamilya ka ba? May asawa ka? May anak ka?
Eleazar also apologized to the public. The PNP chief said Zinampan will face murder and administrative charges. So far, 5,000 cops have been dismissed for various offenses since 2016. Malacanang insists that the case is isolated.
Ito po yung mga bugok. Pero please, we have hundreds of thousands in the ranks of our policemen, and we hear of one or two cases of this nature.
But for some people, the incident will affect their trust in the PNP.
Po sa pulis, parang hindi siya disiplinado sa sarili niya. Kaya po na parang nasira yung tiwala.
Senior Master Sergeant Christopher Salcedo from Valenzuela City is also in custody for allegedly killing an 18-year-old boy with autism during an anti-illegal gambling operation. In December last year, former Police Staff Sergeant Jonel Nuesca was also caught in a video shooting mother and son Frank and Sonia Gregorio over a land dispute in Tarlac. Netizens took to Twitter to denounce the PNP with hashtag Pulis ang Terorista topping the trends. For News 5, Patricia Mangune, we are One News.
DILG Undersecretary Martin Dino says the agency will closely monitor the case of Hensi Zinampan, the killer cop who shot an unarmed woman point blank in Quezon City. The official said they will ensure that justice will be served in this case. In an interview with One News' The Big Story, Dino condemned scalawag cops, who he says is ruining the image of the entire police force. But he refused to call the recent instance of police brutality an isolated case. Dino said it only emphasized the need to be more vigilant and to observe reforms in the PNP to address the culture of brutality and impunity.
Pagka ganyang buhay ng taong pinag-uusapan, hindi pwedeng isolated na. Ito nakuhanan lang ng video to. Paano yung mga hindi nakuhanan ng video? Kaya siguro, tanggapin natin na talagang dapat dito, bantayan talaga ng gusto. Itong ating kapulisan, no, lalo-lalo na, dapat yung mga CEO nito ay tinitignan yung attitude. No?
For PNPA Director Roderick Armamento, one thing that should be addressed is the palakasan system, which allows unqualified policemen to enter the force.
Yung mga ganyan, yung mga gumagamit ng padrino, ng mga palakasan system, kadalasan yung may problema na hindi makapasa-pasa o merong walang qualifications or merong hindi siya makomply na requirements. That's the reason why ang pinupuntahan yung mga kakilala o yung mga kung minsan mga high-ranking officials or politiko.
PNP Chief Guillermo Eleazar says they're looking to subject all policemen to regular neuro-psychiatric evaluations. This in a bid to avoid instances of policemen losing their cool and resorting to violence even against unarmed persons. Eleazar said this is one of the institutional reforms that they're looking at to clean up the police ranks. This is on top of the continuing axing of erring police officers, which he says has been going on since 2015.
Itong neuro-psychiatric test, ito ay nire-require lang namin pag mag-a-apply ka ng promotion or mandatory schooling. At pero, syempre, kung halimbawa ang ating mga commanders or their station health unit, pag may obserbahan sila, nakasamahan na medyo emotionally challenged or may problema, pwede pong i-refer for neuro-psychiatric test. Pero pinakamaganda sana nga is magkaroon ng regular para sa lahat.
Lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer. In celebration of Pride Month, Bloomberg spoke to members of the LGBTQ+ community to explain their views on the community acronym. Let's get the details from this quick take.
A listing of letters, but in and of themselves, those letters are just guides. They're not necessarily hard and fast parameters for where you're allowed to be.
I was very pissed and I said to myself, you're gonna talk now or you're gonna stay silent forever. My name is Jenny, I'm from Albania and I identify myself as a lesbian. And even though I understood that I liked women from, girls from a young age, like the age of 7, I didn't have a name to put to myself because in a country like Albania, there didn't exist a language that would identify different communities. So usually the word that everyone would use to target a person was pederast. So I've been hearing for all these years myself being called pederast, and it's just in the age of the teenagehood that I realized that women that loved women like me and were attracted to women were called lesbian. And there you understand the importance of language.
My name is Nish McLean. I'm from Jamaica. I identify as a trans-masculine person. My pronouns are he, him, they, them. When you look at a person's transition, there are like many different phases to it. There's no one way to transition. Oftentimes when people think about the word transition, they look at the medical part of it, but there's also an emotional component, there's a physical component, there's a social component as well. And I think there's a misconception that trans people are trying to trick the general public or trying to be deceptive. And I think there is a lack of nuance to that because people don't understand. Some people seem not to understand that trans people face a significant amount of violence and discrimination, and they basically think of us as villains or as deceptors when truly all we are trying to do is to survive.
My name is Katahokai Galanginisipile and I identify as a queer identifying trans person. To be queer is to be in the space that says whether or not I am, a femme person attracted to other femme people, where somebody else might look from the outside and say, that person is a lesbian. I would simply just say, I'm queer because I'm attracted to femness. And so my femme attraction doesn't care about whether or not the person is, assigned male at birth or assigned female at birth. The fact is I'm attracted to feminists. A lot of people ask trans-identifying people, is when did you know that you were transgender? And for the most part, we don't know until we are told that what we are experiencing is wrong. Or isn't what everybody else has been experiencing. This is how I want you to understand how to see me. When I walk into a room, beyond everything else that you might see, this is what I need you to see.
And those are the top stories at this hour. Join us later at 12 noon as we continue to monitor the day's biggest stories. You can also catch One News on Signal Play. Just register for a free account at www.signalplay.com and stream One News live anytime, anywhere. I'm Charles Lejano. Mask on, wash hands, and stay safe, Philippines. We are One News.